Thank you, Claire, and thank you again to Nanopore for allowing me to talk about some of the work that we do in our lab. The standard disclaimer, don't do the things that I'm about to talk about that we do. So I'm a clinical geneticist. I see patients in clinic. This is a way that we think about the diagnostic odyssey, both in clinic and in the lab. It's a stepwise process. It takes many years to go through. There are sometimes shortcuts. There are sometimes ways that you fall back. And at the end, you have a diagnostic rate that's less than 50%. So the question my lab thinks about is how do we circumvent many of these steps? How do we get people from sequencing or illness to diagnosis, treatment, better guidance more quickly? One way that we think about that is we need to develop population scale tools that support the clinical adoption of long-read sequencing. So I'm going to go fairly quickly because I only have about 8 minutes. We and others have been collaborating to build these tools, often through the 1,000 Genomes Long-Read Sequencing Consortium, which is open to everyone. The data that we generate is online and made publicly available. And I'll just quickly say that we've built tools such as Needler, which Gus Gustafson, who's a PhD student in the lab, developed and was recently accepted at Bioinformatics. This is a tool to annotate and prioritize structural variants. And just briefly, I'll say that we've used this to identify some fairly tricky structural variants, including this one, which is the most common cause of Canavan disease. This is one that's amenable to ASO therapy and is very difficult to detect with short-read sequencing. This was published in Neurology Genetics last year. Recently, we published a preprint on Troller. This is our tandem repeat annotation and prioritization pipeline. We use this to look at about 3.5 million tandem repeats per genome, prioritize those into high confidence, low confidence repeats, and then identify ones that you should look at very quickly. We applied this to 45 unsolved UDN cases, and within those we found a couple of very interesting expansions, one of which right here is a very large expanded allele in a gene called PCM-TD2. This is not associated with the Mendelian condition, but it did show intergenerational expansion, so mom had a shorter expansion than the proband did, and then the haplotype that's expanded, which is the one on the bottom there, haplotype 2, is methylated, which makes sense for this condition. But what I'm going to talk about in the last 5 minutes here is a new tool called EpiSignaLR. Our goal with this tool is that it can be used to identify or evaluate methylation signatures, epigenetic signatures that are associated with, I'll say, rare disease for now, but in the future I think it could be expanded to other conditions. So what's the value? Why do we care? Why should we work together to do this? Well, methylation signatures in rare disease can be used to both identify individuals who have a condition, but also clarify variants that are associated with that condition. I'm showing you a figure here from a paper that was published a couple of years ago, a heat map on the left and a PCA on the right. This data is from a paper that describes a cohort of individuals with Cornelia de Lange syndrome, a rare genetic condition. And the heat map, they're the blue bar over on the left, and then a set of controls, which is the green. There are 2 uncertain variants represented in this heat map. They're both in red. And the idea here is that if that red is with the blue, then that individual likely has the condition. The VUS is pathogenic or likely pathogenic. Whereas if it's with the green, that VUS is likely benign or benign. So it helps you understand the impact of these rare variants that we find whenever we sequence any one of our genomes. You can look at this different ways. So the heat map on the left, and then there's a PCA on the right. I would challenge you to draw a line on either side of that PCA and tell me where they separate. And that's where some problems come in. Like, where do you actually draw that line? How do you know with confidence that that dot is associated with affected individuals or unaffected individuals? Unfortunately, the data and the methods that underlie most methylation signatures are not made publicly available. Families contribute samples, you send cases for testing. That data is not made available to the research community to better understand some of these signatures. I do want to point out that there are publicly available resources, and one of the best ones out there right now is EpiGen Central, which is from Rosanna Wexberg's lab at SickKids. And this is where some of the data that we use in our tool come from. This was our first foray into long-read derived epigenetic signatures. This is individuals with Kabuki syndrome. The brownish color are controls. The bluish color are individuals with Kabuki. Triangles are long-read sequencing derived methylation signatures, and methylation data, in circles are array-based. And what you can see is that the triangle with the Kabuki groups or clusters with the Kabuki cases, and everybody else groups with the controls. That was great. We know this works. Can we apply it to other conditions? This is a condition called Coffin Siris syndrome. This is a bathopathy. There's about 10, 12 genes associated with this condition. These are the array-derived CPG sites. It's a PCA made from the array-derived CPG sites and separated into array-derived control and cases. So controls here are blue and cases are in this brownish color, maybe orangish color again. We were surprised when we overlaid long-read data onto this PCA because it doesn't make any sense. These cases and controls don't cluster. And why is that? Well, it's probably because the array-derived signature doesn't work well when you have 33 million CPG sites, whereas the array has 88 million. So what Sophie Gibson and Miranda Gailey, Sophie's an excellent PhD student in the lab, and Miranda's our computational biologist in the lab, they were able to build a long-read specific methylation signature for Coffin-Siris syndrome. This is all using long-read derived data that we had to go to the family meeting and collect directly from families affected with this condition. That's how we build these. We actually have to go to these meetings, get people in the room, and collect samples from them. We can do the same thing with other conditions. This is set D1B. This is a neurodevelopmental condition. Here I'm showing you cases and controls and then some holdout data, which is filled in, showing you that we can build the signature, but then we can also use data that we generate, that we don't use to generate the signature to classify properly. This is our goal. We want to make these available for everybody. We want you to be able to download this tool and run this on your data. So what is EpiSignaLR? It's a command line tool for evaluating epigenetic signature data from long-read sequencing data. What does it do? It will give you the signatures. It'll give you SVM scores right now for about 30 conditions, and it'll give you more detailed analysis of Coffin-Siris and set D1B. You'll get things like heat maps, PCAs, SVM scores, et cetera. Why do we need it? It's so that we can better understand these conditions. I've sent methylation testing before, gotten results back that don't make sense, and I don't have a way to understand why they don't make sense. That's not really fair to the patients and the families that I see in clinic. This is our effort to rectify that. The tool will be available next month. The whole reason I'm standing up here is I want to engage the community. I need cases. I want to work with you to both collect, sequence, and publish those cases, because we all will benefit from tools like this when they're available, similar to how we've benefited from Needler being publicly available data, as well as Troller having publicly available data. So please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk, collaborate, generate data, et cetera. With that, I'll say thank you to the lab, and again, thank you to Nanopore for the opportunity.